Alright, so this guy is an awesome actor. His name is Andrew Lincoln, and everybody knows him as Rick Grimes on The Walking Dead, and he started off as pretty much a no-name, but then elevated himself to having the biggest show on TV, getting 17 million viewers an episode, making $650,000 an episode. But the big question is, why did this guy vanish? In 2010, when AMC announced they'd be making a Walking Dead series, it wasn't actually that sought after, where not a lot of people had hopes for it, and the reason was because the comics were just okay in terms of success, where they had this cult following, selling 30,000 issues per comic, but that was nothing compared to what Batman, Superman, X-Men were selling, which was about 150,000 comics per issue. But really what gave The Walking Dead serious early on was Frank Darabont agreeing actually to become the showrunner, and the reason why that was a big deal is he directed The Shawshank Redemption, The Green Mile, The Mist, and a lot of big Stephen King work, so a lot of people took The Walking Dead seriously when he came on. Lucky for Andrew Lincoln, Frank was actually a huge fan of him, and Andrew Lincoln didn't even know it before he got cast in The Walking Dead. The reason being that in the early 2000s, Andrew Lincoln was known for doing a show called Teachers in the UK, which went for 40 episodes, and he wasn't aware of this, but Frank was actually a big fan of the show, and even though it was more of a comedy, he looked at Andrew Lincoln and said, hey, this guy can play the small-town sheriff. Because that Andrew Lincoln got cast as the lead in The Walking Dead, and man, this was definitely a big deal for him, where he started out making $90,000 an episode in the first season, but then cut to the later seasons he was in, he was getting $650,000 an episode, and also at the same time, AMC loved it, where originally the ratings were 5 million viewers an episode, but cut to season 5 and they were averaging 17 million viewers an episode. Here was why Andrew Lincoln decided to leave The Walking Dead suddenly in the later seasons, and it came down to a really good reason, family, and that was because his whole family lived in the United Kingdom, but he's out there in Georgia filming the show, and because of that, it's extremely difficult to see them, and he was looking through a bunch of photos on his phone, and he realized he had more photos with the cast and crew than his own family over the last 5 years, and he said it just shouldn't work like that, so he wanted out. Also, he saw the writing on the wall that people were kind of getting sick of The Walking Dead, where in season 8 they were averaging about 7.5 million viewers an episode, which is still a lot, but that was actually less than half of what they were averaging in seasons 5 and 6. But this is where things get a little messy. Even though Andrew Lincoln wanted to leave the show The Walking Dead, he didn't want to leave the franchise or the character of Rick Grimes. So he made a deal with this guy right here, Scott Gimple, who's a showrunner for The Walking Dead, saying, hey, let's stick with Walking Dead but make it a movie trilogy where Rick Grimes is going to have these movies in theaters. TV shows going into theaters for movies is kind of a gamble, with some successes like Sex and the City existing, where their movie made $419 million on a budget of $65 million. But then there's failures like the Entourage movie, which made $49 million on a budget of $39 million, which means it actually lost money. But still, when Andrew Lincoln made that deal with AMC, it was definitely at the wrong time, because this was right around the time they made the Breaking Bad movie El Camino on Netflix. And even though it was a hit with 26 million viewers seeing it, it didn't really expand much to the franchise, so they were getting wary on the idea of making these movies. They also questioned if the zombie crowd was over, because The Dead Don't Die, Overlord, and Anna and the Apocalypse all failed miserably in 2018 and 2019. Finally, The Walking Dead collapsed, where by season 10 they were only averaging about 2.5 million viewers an episode, which was an all-time low for the series. So AMC canceled the movie trilogy and instead did a mini-series, which I'm not sure Andrew Lincoln would have said yes to, but he got to be with his family with that Charles Paul subscriber.